Hi everyone, welcome to this course. In this course, we will build a project with React and Firebase. We will use latest Firebase SDK, which currently is version 9. The project which we will build will be a private chat app in which we will utilize Firebase authentication, firestore as database, and Firebase storage for images. Alright, so now let me give you the demo of final app. So now first I will create an account. So after successful registration, I am redirected to home page. Now let's go to profile. Here we are displaying the username, email and the date the account was created. And this is the default image when the user first registered. So let's upload an image. So when I hover over the image, this camera icon appears to upload the image. And if I click on it, so here is our new image. And when we upload the image, we will also have the option to delete the image as well. So it will delete from Firebase storage. Alright, so now I will create another user account. Let me first go to home page. And now if I click on register, so this left side, it will be in the user list, and on the right side we will have our messages. So here I am logged in as Farhan and I can see the other user test, and same here I'm logged in as test here and I can see Farhan as well. And this green circle, it indicates that this user is currently online. So this is Farhan, and if I log out from here, it turns to red. Because we are using real-time listeners. Okay, so now let me send message to this test user. Click on the user, and here is the message field. So the UI is updated immediately because of the real-time listener. And if you take a look at here, it's also showing the last message, and before the message it's showing me because this message is sent by me to this test user. And here in test user, it's not showing me because the message is sent by other user. And we also have this notification. It shows that there is an unread message, and if I click on this, it disappears because there is no unread message now. And if I send message from test to Farhan, now you can see this new notification indicator which shows there is a new message, an unread message. And if I click on this, now it's not unread. And we can also send images. and upon new message the scroll bar automatically goes to the bottom. So this is what we are going to build in this course. Okay, so let's create a React project. Npx create React app, give it a name React Messenger. I have both yarn and npm installed and I will use npm, so after that -- use npm. Let's create a Firebase project. Add project and give it a name. Click continue. And now we will create a web app. Give it a name. Continue to console and we have one app. So now in authentication, get started, and from these sign-in providers click on this email and password and enable it. Click save. And now go to firestore. Create database and we will start in test mode. Next. Alright, so it's done. Now I will open the project in VS Code. Let's install two packages, React Router DOM and Firebase. So cd into React Messenger npm I React Router DOM Firebase. Now let's clean it a little bit. Okay, let's start the app. Npm start. Alright, so in the next lesson we will add Firebase configuration in our React app. Okay, so now let's add Firebase configuration to our React app. So go to Firebase. Here click on project settings and copy this. And here within source directory I will add a file firebase.js. Firebase version 9 is based on modular approach, so we only grab function we need. So in this case we are importing initialize app from Firebase app, and these are the configuration of our app, and after that we are passing this configuration to initialize app and storing our initialize app in app variable. There's one thing is missing. Now Firebase don't automatically create database URL, so we will do it in database URL, and it's https your app name, which in this case is this dot firebase.io.com. In fact, let's store these values in environment variable. So at root I will create a .env file, and it will be React app. The first one was API key, auth domain, database URL, project ID, storage bucket, and the last is app ID. And in Firebase here, let's say process.env.react app. Alright, so that's it. So first of all, here we are importing the function we need from Firebase SDK, and this is the configuration of our app, and now we are passing this configuration to initialize app function and storing it in app. Let's restart because we have changed environment variable. Alright, so it's working. Okay, so now let's create Navbar, and we will come to this file later when we start dealing with Firebase. And before that, let's set up a home route. Import from React router DOM, and we will import browser router, switch, and route. And here browser router, inside that switch, and the first route will be home. Component home, and now we will create it. Import home from, and I will place it inside pages and then home. Now in source folder pages and then home.js. Okay, make sure you add this .env file in getignore so that it don't become part of version control. .env. And now let's create a folder components and then navbar. Nav tag and then h3. Now let's import link from React router DOM. Link to slash, I'll call it messenger. Now after this h3 div, let's create two links for now, one for register and one for login. Alright, so now I will paste some CSS. So in index.css inside body, I'm setting background to this color and make color to white. And now in app.css, box size to border box. And now here I defined a few colors which we will use. And here I am targeting the nav tag, setting it to flex, align item center and justify content space between, so that these two have space in between. And then setting the height of navbar 70 pixels, padding top and bottom 0 and left to right 20 pixels, background color to this and border bottom to this color. And then nav a tag, the color will be white and text decoration none. And then a within div margin right 20 pixel. These two. Okay, so now we have to add this navbar in app.js. So before switch, navbar, press enter, it will auto import. Save it. Okay, so this is how it looks. Alright, so in next lesson we will start working on register. Alright, so now let's start working on register. So in pages, let's create a file register.js. And in app.js, we will create a route for that. So it will be /register. And it's already auto imported. Okay, so we need a form here. So let's change it to section. And then in heading h3, create an account. Now we will add form with class of form. We don't need action. Let's add a div class of input container. And the first field will be name. So label HTML for name, and after that input field, type text and name attribute equals to name. Okay, so I will duplicate it 2 more times, one for email and then for password. So it will be label for email, name equals to email, and then password. Let's add some CSS. So here I am targeting the section tag, setting max width to 500 pixel, margin top bottom 0 and left right auto to center align it, then giving it a margin top and box shadow, padding top and bottom 10 pixels and left and right 20 pixels, and border radius 5 pixels, and then h3, which is this heading. So text align center, font size 20 pixel, and setting the color to this one, this gray color. So this is how it looks so far. So here we are targeting the form class, setting margin top and padding, and then the input container div, margin top 20 pixels, and after that the input tag itself, width 100%, padding all corners 10 pixels, outline none, margin top 10 pixels, border 1 pixel solid, and this color, this gray color, and border radius 5 pixels. Okay, so after div we will add button. So it will be a div with class button container, and then a button class btn, and we will call it register. Okay, let's style it also. So the button container, margin 10 pixel top and bottom and 0 pixel left and right, and then text align center, and then the button itself, padding border radius outline none, border background color, cursor pointer, giving it a transition, and then font size 16 pixels, and on hover we are changing its size a little bit, 1.05. Now we will start working on functionalities. So first of all, let's import use state from React. I'll call it data, set data, use state, and the values here will be name, email, password, and then error and loading, which will be false initially. Let's make error null. Okay, now let's destructure these properties: name, email, password, error, loading. from data. Alright, so now we have to bind these input fields with these properties. So value here will be, for first one it will be name, and we need a on change function, and we will create a function handle change. So for the next one it will be name value equals to email and password. Now let's define this handle change function. It will take an event argument, and here we will say set data. We will spread out any existing data, and then e.target.name, which is this. In this case its target name is equal to name, and here name equals to email. So here we are targeting the values by their name attribute, e.target.value. Alright, we also need an on submit function. Let's call it handle submit. Handle submit. It will be an asynchronous function, and first of all we will prevent the default behavior of form submission, e.prevent default. Let's just console log the values so that we know that this handle change is working. We are getting the values. Alright, so first of all we will check that these fields are not empty: name, email and password. If not name or not email or not password, if that is the case, set data, we will spread out existing data, and then error will be all fields are required. And while we are here, let's just display error here. So if there is an error, we will display the error, otherwise null. So let's give it a class of error. And we are center aligning the text and giving the color this red color. Okay, so after that let's add a try catch block, and here we will register the user. So we will import something from Firebase Auth, that is create user with email and password. Const result equals to await create user with email and password. Now it requires three things: auth, email and password. We do have access to email and password, but we also need to provide this auth. So let's go to our Firebase file. Just like we import initialize app from Firebase app, we will import another function from Firebase auth. Firebase /auth, and that function will be get auth. and after the app initialization, const auth equals to get auth, and here we have to pass the app to it, this one. Alright, so now we will export this auth variable to use in register route. Export auth. So now we have an instance of auth. Let's import it. Import from Firebase auth. So here in the first argument will be auth, and then email, and last password. Let's just console log it. Result.user. Okay, so before making request, we should also set the error back to null. So here data error will be null and loading false. Not exactly false, it will be true. One, two, three. And this is the response we got from Firebase. Let's check in our Firebase authentication, and here is the user we just created. Okay, so after creating the user, I would like to add this user information to our firestore as well. So at the top, let's import something from firestore, and set doc. Then we need doc, and now here, after we have successfully registered the user, we will add it, the user information to database. So here we will say await. We don't have to store it in variable because we are not going to use it, but we will use this one. Set doc, and it takes the document reference, which we have already imported doc, and now this doc reference takes firestore reference and the path to firestore. So for firestore reference, let's go back to Firebase JS again, and we will import something from firestore, just like we did with the auth. And this will be get firestore, and after auth, const db equals to get firestore, and we need to provide ab, and finally we will export it. Okay, so here we need to import the db. Set doc, first argument is database, and then we need to provide the collection name. So let's call it users, and then the document ID. So if you've already worked with Firebase with the earlier version, you know it's something like, when we set document, it's something like that: Firebase dot firestore dot collection, here collection name, then dot doc, here the ID, and then dot set method. So that's how we used to do with earlier version. And now in version 9, this is how we set the document. We import the set doc and doc from Firebase Firestore, and we have to pass the DB and then the collection name and then the document, which is this one. So here we are getting the ID from this variable result dot user dot uid. And finally we need to provide the data we want to store there. So I will add uid result dot user dot uid and then the name, email, and let's also add created at field. And for that we need to import timestamp, which will be from the Firestore. So here timestamp dot from date, and we will pass new date. And one more property is online. True. We will set it to false when user logs out, and we will see later why we need to do this. So after setting the document, let's clear the fields. Error null loading false. Okay, and in case of error will be error dot message and loading false. Alright, so first of all we are setting error null and loading true before making request to Firebase, and here we are checking the fields. If they are empty, we are setting the error to this message. And finally we are registering the new user. We imported this create user with email and password from Firebase Auth, and we have passed it auth, email, and password. We got this auth from our firebase.js file because we imported this Firebase on get auth function from Firebase Auth, and we initialize the app with it. And here we are exporting this auth variable. And once we have successfully registered the user, we are setting the user information in Firestore. So for that we have imported this set doc and doc from Firestore, and then for DB we obtained this get Firestore function from Firestore and passed the app to it. And the second argument is the collection name, which we are calling users, and the third argument is document. So the document here is user ID, and this is the data we are storing: the user ID, name, email, created at, and is online. And finally here we are resetting the state. So let's give it a try. Let me delete this user. Oh, 123 123 register. And now let's check our Firestore or Firebase. So here we in authentication, this is the user we just created, and in Firestore this is the users collection, the user ID, and these are the fields we stored. Alright, so now let's disable the button if loading is true. Disabled equals to loading. What else we need to do here? Maybe we should redirect the user to home page. So let's import React router DOM. From React router DOM, we are importing use history. Const history equals to use history. And here we can say history dot replace or push /. Let me delete this user. In fact, this delete this collection. Okay, so we have been redirected to home page. So here is a user we just created. Okay, so now we will work on login user. So it will be similar to this one. So let's just duplicate it, call it login, and in app.js we will bring login. So the path will be /login and the component is login. Right, so let's call it login. We don't need name, we will log in user with email and password. So it will be log into your account. Okay, so when loading is true, we will show the logging in, else login. And the same we can do for register. If loading is true, we will show creating, otherwise register. Okay, so now we will need another function. We don't need create user, we need sign in with email and password. And its argument will be same auth, email and password. And now we don't need to set the document when we log in. In fact, we need to update it, and this property is online true, because when we log out the user we will set this property to false. So upon login we will set it to true again. So for that we will import update doc. And it's similar to in earlier version it was something like this: Firebase dot firestore dot collection .doc and then .update. So in version 9 we will do this like that. Update doc, we will pass the document, db as first argument, collection, and then the user ID, and finally the data we need to update. So in our case it will be just this property is online true, and after that we are resetting the state and redirecting the user to home page. Oh, this name should be login. And here we don't need this timestamp and set doc. Okay, let's try this. So let's go to login. Okay, so we are now logged in because we are redirected to this home page. Okay, so in the next lesson we will work on these links. When the user is login, we will show different links and also an option to log out. Alright, so now let's work on Navbar. Let's import auth from Firebase file. And here we will check if there is an authenticated user. So auth dot current user, we will show something else. Okay, let's just show profile. And then button. And if a user is not authenticated, then we will show these two links, register and login. So right now I am login, so we are seeing this profile and logout. Okay, so now let's work on this logout functionality. So we will import something from Firebase Auth, and this will be sign out. So let's create a function here, handle sign out. It will be an asynchronous function, and here we will say await sign out, and we will call this function on button click. But here we need to do something else. We have to set the is login property to false. This one, when user is logged out. So we have to update the document. So let's import from Firebase firestore, and we will import the update doc and then the doc. And from Firebase we also need db, and here before logging user out we will update the document, await update doc, and the reference will be doc, and then firestore reference db, and then collection which will be users, and finally the document which will be auth.currentuser.uid, and then the field we need to update which will be is online false. So it's true right now, and when we click logout it's now false. Cannot read properties sign out of undefined. Oh, I know why is it. We need to provide auth to this function. If you take a look at this sign out, it takes auth. So let's log in the user again. One two three login. Is online is true. Okay, so now we are login, but we are seeing these register and login, so we need to update this UI. So in the next lesson we will see how to listen for auth state change. Okay, so now we will work on updating our UI, as this clearly is not the perfect solution. It's not updating the UI if user is logged in or not. So for that we will use React context. So in source, let's create a folder context and then auth.js file. And here we will import a few things from React. Create context, use effect, and use state. So let's initialize create context and we will export it. Export const. I will call it auth context, create context. And now the auth provider, const auth provider, and we will return auth context dot provider. And here we need to pass children because we will wrap our entire app with this provider. Export default auth provider. Okay, in app.js, let's import this. And wrap the entire app with this auth provider. Okay, so here we will create a user state. Which will be initially null, and one more loading. Initially it will be true. So in use effect we will listen for auth state change. So we will import this from Firebase auth, and the function name is on auth state change. We also need auth from our Firebase file. So on auth state change, and it takes auth, and if there is a user we will set user to this user and set loading to false. And here let's just check if the loading is true, then return for now just loading. And as value we will pass user so that we can use it in our app. Okay, so now in Navbar let's import use context and then auth context from our context file. We will destructure user from this auth context, and now we will replace this auth.currentUser with user. Let's log in. So currently is online is false. Now we are logged in. So it says profile and logout, and is online is true. And if we refresh a page, it still shows us as logged in. And if we click logout, UI updates. So let's just do one thing more, which is to redirect user to home login page. So we will import use history from React Router DOM. Once we signed out the user, let's redirect to login page. Alright, so user is login, is online is true, logout, redirected to login, and is online is false now. Alright, so now let's make a component for loading. So in components, loading.js, and here an h2 which will say just loading. And let's style it position relative, and the h2 position fixed, top 50%, left 50%, and then to make it appear on center, transform translate minus 50% and minus 50%. And in our context file, let's import it. Actually maybe loading. So if you can see that loading. Okay, now let's make a private route so that we will make this home page as private. Only authenticated user can visit this page. So in components, let's call it private route. It will take component and any other properties, rest. Let's import our context. And here use context. We will also need something from React Router DOM. Redirect and route. So first of all, destructure user from our context. And now we will return route. rest exact and render props, and if it's authenticated request, then we will allow user to go there, otherwise we will redirect to login. So we will check for user. If user is there, then component, and if there are any props, we will pass that as well. Otherwise redirect to login page. So we are grabbing user from our context, and here we are checking if user, so if it's authenticated, then we will allow user to visit that page, otherwise we will redirect to login page. Now let's save this file, and in app.js let's make this route, this home route, private route, and it's already auto imported, so I cannot go there as I am not on login. As you can see, we have been redirected to login. Let's login. Now I can visit this authenticated route. Now we will work on user profile. So in pages, let's create a file, profile.js. And in app.js, here I will import profile from pages/profile. It will be a protected route, and the path will be /profile and component profile. Here I will add a div class of profile container, and inside that another div with class of image container. Now the image, for now let's add an image. Alt will be avatar. After this image container, I will add another div with class text container. It will have an h3 for username and p tag for email. And finally a user joining date. Now I will add some CSS. Profile container, display flags, align item center. And then image container, position relative, margin right 20 pixels. and we will see why we add position relative, because here in image, when we hover over the image, we will display the icon to upload the image and probably to delete the image. And then the image tag itself, width 100 pixels, height 100 pixels, border radius 50% to make it round, border, and some transition. And finally text container, flex grow to 1, and text container h3 heading, text aligned to left. So if we take a look at it now, it looks something like this. So here when we hover over the image, I would like to show the an icon to upload the image. So I will go to hero icons, and I will pick this one. Copy JSX, and inside components, let's create a folder svg and then camera.js. Let's give it some styles. Width and height 25 pixels, and cursor pointer. And after this image tag, I will add a div with class overlay, another div, and then label HTML for photo, and here I will place this camera. It's auto imported. And after the label, input type file, accept image, and I don't want to show this because I would like the user to see this camera icon. So let's set display to none, and then ID, which will be photo. And for CSS, I'm changing the opacity to 0.4 on image tag, and then setting the overlays opacity to 1. And finally the overlay class itself, opacity initially is 0, position absolute, that's why we set relative here, top 50%, left 50%, and transform -50 -50, text aligned to center. So if we take a look at it now, when we hover over the image, image opacity is changed to 0.4 and the icon opacity is set to 1. And if we click on it, it will ask us to upload the image. Okay, so let's create a state for image. Image set image, use state, it will be empty string initially, and here on change, e.target.files, it will be an array, so we will grab the first one, and if we log it, img, so here we can see the details of image. In the next lesson we will work on image upload. Okay, so the way image upload will work, will be something like, when we select an image here on change, it will set the image object to this state. So we will upload image when this image object is not equals to null. So currently it's null, and if we select the image state contains this object. So we will do that in use effect. And we will pass image as dependency, so that to rerun it if image is not equals to empty string. And to work with Firebase storage, just like auth and db, we will need to grab get storage, and it will be from Firebase storage, and the function name is get storage. Const storage equals to get storage, and we have to pass app to it, and finally we will export it. Now in profile.js I will import it, and we will also import few things from Firebase storage. And we need ref get download URL and upload bytes. Now here we will check if image, then we will perform the image upload. Const upload image, it will be an asynchronous function, and we have to create image reference. Const image ref equals to ref, which we imported from here, and it required storage, which we already initialized in our Firebase file. And then the URL, it will be path where we would like to store image in Firebase storage. So let's say we will store it in folder avatar slash new date dot get time dash image dot name. No, it will be after this. We will get this name from this object, and we are adding this new date dot get time because if we upload the same image twice, it will override the existing image. Okay, so we have created the reference. Now we will upload the image, and we will use upload bytes, and it will take reference, which is this one, and then the data, which in our case is this. It contains the entire image object. And let's just console log it. So currently the storage is empty. Oh, we need to call the function as well. This one. Upload image. Let's first refresh it. Now image state is empty. Save. And now let's try. So this is the path we logged here. And if we check our storage, the folder, the timestamp and the image name, and this was the image we just uploaded. We will also add the image link in firestore. So for that, first of all, let's grab user. So we need get doc and doc, and we also need db from our Firebase file. So before image upload, we will grab user. So get doc, we will pass doc, and first of all we have to provide db, and then the collection name, which in our case is users, and finally the document, which is the current user's id. So let's also import auth.currentUser.uid. Then it will return document snapshot. So here we will check if it exists. I will create user state here. Set user to this doc snap dot data. So we will store two new fields. The one is the actual image URL and the second is path to the URL. This path, and the URL will be this. So why we need to add path? Because later when we want to delete the image, we will need this path. So after we upload the image, we will get the download URL. So const URL equals to await get download URL, which we also imported from Firebase storage, and it takes reference, and then again storage, and finally the URL. And for URL we need to provide the path so that it can grab the URL based on that path, and we can get the path from snap.ref.full path. Let me just console log both of them first. So first one will be path, and second the URL. Let's save it and try again. So this is the path to Firebase storage, and this is the URL of image. as you can see, the path. Now we have both path to image and the URL of image. So let's update the user document as well. Here we need to grab update doc and finally await update doc. It will take doc firestore, which is the DB, path, which is our collection, in our case it's users, and then the document, which is auth.currentuser.uid, and finally the fields we want to update. So first field will be avatar, which will be the URL, and second avatar path. snap.ref.full path, and we need this so that we can delete the image later. Once it's all completed, we will clear the state, set image to empty. And since it's asynchronous function, let's add try catch. First let me remove these images. Okay, now we have only one image, and if we check Firestore, here you can see the record is updated, avatar, the URL to the image, and the path to the image. Okay, so now when we already have this user, so let's update our UI. Here username and user dot email. Let's also add if user exists, then show this, otherwise null. And for image, if user dot avatar is available, otherwise default image. Now you can see the image is changed. Okay, we need to add the date as well, because we have this created at property. User dot created at dot to date, and then dot to date string. We have to do this to date to convert the Firebase timestamp to the date, and then to date string. So joined on the date. And if we change the image now, let's see what will happen. Now this one. Okay, so the image URL is changed, and if we take a look at storage, this is the old image and this one is the new image. So it would be better to delete the old image and then add the new image. So in the next lesson we will see how to update the image, and for that first we will delete the existing image if there is any, and then upload the new image. Okay, so before uploading the image we will see if there is an existing image or not. If there is any, then we will delete it first. So first of all we will bring from Firebase storage delete object function, and here before we are uploading the image we will check if user dot avatar path, because if there is an existing image then this avatar path will contain the path to that image. If that is the case, await delete object, and we need to pass the ref and then storage and this path user dot avatar path, and once it's deleted then we will upload the new image. So here currently user has this image, let's delete this one. And in firestore, as you can see, the avatar path is image1.jpg. So let's save it and try it. This is the image, this is the existing image, and now let's change it, image2. So it's uploaded, and if we take a look at firestore document, now it's image2 and firestore and storage. We can see image1 is deleted and now there is an image2. Okay, one last thing in this route, let's also give the user ability to delete his image if we want to go with the default image. And here I would like to add an icon of delete the image. So let's grab it also. Let's grab this one, copy JSX. Width 25 pixels, height 25 pixels, cursor pointer, and finally color, this one, red color. So here in profile, after the label, we will check if user currently has avatar, then we will display the icon of to delete the image, otherwise we will not show this. User.avatar or null. So let's check. Okay, since it has the avatar already set, so we are seeing this option. And now let's write the function for it. It will be an asynchronous function. So first of all, let's ask user const confirm equals to window.prompt delete avatar. So if user press yes, then we will delete the image. So then await delete object, we will pass ref and then storage and path, which will be user.avatar path. Once it's done, we will also have to update the firestore document, and we will set avatar path and avatar value to empty string, these two. Await update doc, we will pass doc, and first argument will be db, second will be collection name, and the third document, which is auth current user uid. And we will set avatar to empty string and avatar path to empty string as well. Now let's import use history. And we will redirect user to home page. And we will pass this handle delete image function to this icon. And here we will grab this delete image, and on click we will call it. Okay, let's try. I would like to delete this image. Oh, it's not prompt, it's window.confirm. Delete avatar, okay. Okay, we are redirected to home page, and if we take a look at firestore, avatar is empty, avatar path is empty, and storage, you can see there was only one file in avatar folder, so it's entirely gone. And this is the default image. Okay, so let's recap. First of all, in use effect, we are querying the firestore to get the currently logged in users document and setting the state if if document is available. And then if this image state is not null, we will perform the image upload task. First we have created the image reference, and here we are checking if there is already an existing image. If there is any, then first we will delete the existing image, and after that we will upload the new image. The first argument is the image reference and the second image object itself. And finally here we are getting back the download URL from Firebase storage so that we can update the user collection in Firestore. So we are setting the avatar to this URL and avatar path to this path. And once it's all done, we are resetting the state. And this is the delete image function, which is deleting the image and updating the Firestore document, resetting the avatar and avatar path to null empty string. Now we will work on home page, and we will show the list of users on the left side and messages on the right. So in pages home, here we will query the users collection. We will get all the users except for the logged in user. So for example, if I am logged in as test@test.com, we will query all users other than myself. So let's import use effect. So this is how we are going to query. If we take a look at document, first we will import a few things from firestore, and then we will create this query object. It will be collection, database, and the collection name, and the where condition. Here I will provide the condition to get all users other than myself, and after that we are executing the query. Let's import db from our Firebase file. And we also need auth here. And from firestore we will grab collection, query, where, and on snapshot. We have two functions to make query. The one is on snapshot, which is a real-time listener, and the second is get docs. Get docs run only once, so we will use this one. And the reason for that is we will check the user status if the user is online or not. So first of all, the collection ref, I'll call it users ref collection, and here we will provide db and the collection name. After that we will create query object. And as first argument we will provide users ref and then our condition. So here the condition is where we will check UID. And I have already created two more users. So if we take a look at this, in our user we have a field UID. UID and then the filter. We will check not in because it will be an array, as we will get the list of users. Not in and then array, and here we will provide auth dot current user dot UID. So in this query object we are querying the entire users collection other than the currently logged in user. And finally we will execute the query. Const unsub equals to on snapshot, and it will take our query object and we will get snapshot. Let's call it query snapshot, and then query snapshot dot for each document. We will get all the users, so we will set the users in our state. So let's also create the state. Users set users use state an empty array, and here I will create a variable let users equals to an empty array. So for each document users dot push doc dot data, we are pushing the data in this array. And after this for each we will set users to this users. and since it's a real-time listener, so we will unsubscribe it, return unsub. So out of 3 users we are getting there 2 users. One is Farhan and second one Abbasi. I am not getting the test at test.com because I am logged in as test. I will give it a class of home container, and then another div with class of users container. Here we will loop through this user state, users.map user, and we will create a component for user key equals to user.uid, and we will pass the entire user as well. So in components user.js, and it will receive user which we passed here. And now let's import this component. And for CSS, position relative display grid, as it will be a grid, and grid template column 1 fraction and 3 fraction. User will be 1 fraction and the remaining 3 fraction will be the messages section. Overflow hidden so that we don't see the scroll bar, and height 100 viewport height minus 70 pixels, which is our navbar height, and width 100 viewport. And after that, users container margin top text 10 pixels, border right, and overflow by auto. So if the user list keep growing, then we will have a scroll bar. So this is the border. So I'll give it a class of user wrapper, and inside that another div with class of user info, and inside that one more div, user detail. On left side we will show the user avatar, so image tag, source will be user.avatar, and if there is no user avatar, then we will display the default image. Alt will be avatar, and class also avatar. After that, h4 for username, and after this user detail div, we will add a div with class user status, and here we will show an indicator. If user is not online, we will show the indicator as red, otherwise it will be green. and then some dynamic classes. So let me add template literal, and here we will check user dot is online. If user is online, then we will set online class, otherwise offline. And now the CSS. So user wrapper margin bottom 10 pixels, padding 10 pixels, and cursor pointer. User info class, display flex, justify content, space between, align item center. Because we will set this div on the left and the indicator on the right side. And then user detail class, display flex, align item center, and the h4 margin left 10 pixels. So here's the user detail. We will display image and the username side by side, and 10 pixel margin for username. And the avatar, width and height 50 pixel, border radius 50%, and border. And then user status, width and height 10 pixel and border radius 50%, so that in the online or offline indicator is rounded. So online will be this green color, and offline will be this one. So this is how it looks. User avatar, username, and currently the user is offline, so the indicator is red. So we have used the on snapshot to keep track of this indicator, as it's a real-time listener. So if we log in as another user, you see it's immediately turned green because it's the real-time listener. Now if we log out, and here we can see the test is also logged in. Now if we log out, it should turn green red back. So in the next section we will work on this messages side. So when we click on any user, we will display the username at top, and later on we will work on displaying the messages and adding new messages. So now we will work on this selecting the user. So we need to find a way to click on the user and get the user information. So in home page, let's create a function, select user, and we will pass user to this function. And here let's just log it, and we will pass this function to our user component. Now in user component, we will get this select user function, and we will call it here, okay, here on click, we will call this select user, and we need to pass the user to this function. We already have access to the user here. So if I click on this one, here you can see the name, username Farhan Farooq, and if I click on this one, here you can see the name Abbasi. Now let's work on displaying the username. So here I will create another state, chat, set chat, initially it will be empty string, and when we select the user, we will set chat to this user. Now here, after users container, we will add a div. Messages container will be the class, and here we will check if chat exists, means we have selected the user. Then we will show something. We will display the username. So if a user is selected, we will display his name, chat.name, because this chat is an entire user object. And if it's not selected, we will show something else. We will display a message, select a user to start conversation, and let's give it a class noconf. And now the CSS part. Messages container width 100%. Messages user class padding 10 pixel, text align center. We will display the username at center position and border bottom. And finally, this noconf class, font size 20 pixel, color will be, I think it's gray. Yes, it's gray, and text align center. So right now we have not selected any user, so we are getting this message, select a user to start conversation. And if we select a user, we can see the username, and this is the border bottom we have specified in CSS. In the next lesson, we will work on sending the message to the selected user. Now let's create a component message form. And we will use it if the user is selected. So here I will add a fragment, and after this div, and inside this form, here I will add a form tag. Let's give it a class name of message form. And now label HTML for image. We will provide the option of uploading the image as well. Let's grab an SVG. Copy JSX, and in SVG, let's add a file attachment. Width and height 25 pixels. Cursor pointer, and color will be gray. And after that label, input file field, which we will display none. ID will be img. accept image, and finally display none. Then input field, let's add a placeholder, enter message, and after that button with class button btn, and we will call it send. So for the CSS, display flex align item center, width 30 pixels, height 30 pixels and width 100 pixels, and we are setting it the position absolute, bottom 0 and left 20%. And after that input field, and finally button. So this is how it looks. So in home page we will now create a state to store the text message. And then handle submit function to send the message. It will be an asynchronous function. Okay, so we need access to two users, the currently logged in users and the users we clicked. So currently logged in user, we can grab it auth current user UID. Let's store it at user1. And here we will call it user1. Now this user1 is currently logged in user, and we can access the second user from here, chat, because when we select user we are providing the user to this chat state. So const user2 will be chat.uid. Okay, so we will store our message inside messages collection, then unique identifier for user1 and user2, and then we can't use add doc method on document. So we can use it only on collection. So we will add another sub collection, we will call it chat, and then we will add the document. So we have already brought the collection and we need something else, add doc. Okay, so here await add doc, and it takes collection reference, so collection, and then inside collection we will have to provide db, then collection name, then unique identifier. So const id equals to, if user1 is greater than user2, unique identifier will be user1 id plus user2, otherwise user2 id plus user1. So all the message will be in between any two specific user will reside in this document, id and then sub collection chat. So we can't use add doc method on document itself. That's why we are adding a sub collection. It's a Firebase limitation. And finally the data we want to add there. So the field will be text, and then from, and this from will always be the currently logged in user. So user1. 2, it will be the user, this chat, the selected user, user2, and then created at, let's grab timestamp also, timestamp dot from date, new date. Once it's successfully added, we will reset the state, and so set text to empty string. And now we will pass this handle submit function and the text and set text to message form. Let's save it, and here we will grab handle submit, text and set text. So on form submit we will call handle submit, and here value will be text, and on change we will set this value. Set text will be e.target dot value. Okay, so let's try. Okay, so the field is cleared. Let's check our firestore. You can see the messages collection, then the document. There are two user IDs starting with WBH and ending DN2. Let's confirm it. Starting WBH, ending DN2. So test send the message to Farhan. So main collection messages and identifier, and then the sub collection chat, and this is the ID of a specific message. It's generated by Firebase because of add doc method, and these are the fields created at from, text, and to. Now if I log in as Farhan, and now you can see there are two documents, hello test, and this message is from Farhan, and they both resides within this unique identifier. Whether test send message to Farhan or Farhan send message to test, this will be the same because of this condition. This one. Let's also allow user to send media files, so we will use Firebase storage for that. First of all, let's create the state. And if you remember from profile page, we need these things: ref get download URL upload bytes and from Firebase storage. And from our Firebase file, we need storage. So here we will check if image exists. If user has selected a file, then we will perform upload image. So let URL if image. So if user has selected the image, then first we will create the image reference. Ref first argument will be storage and then the path. So I will store it in images slash, let's make it template literal, new date dot get time, and then image name, image dot name. Now we will upload it. Const snap equals to await upload bytes. It will take image reference and the image itself. And finally the download URL, await get download URL, and we need to provide ref storage and the path from Firebase storage, snap.ref.full path. And now after that we will say URL equals to DL URL, and here we will say media URL if it exists, otherwise empty string. We need to pass this set image. So in message form, here we will say on change set image e.target.files, and we will grab the first file. Now let's try. Now if we take a look at our firestore, so this media field has the image URL, and in Firebase storage images folder, and here is the image. So here we are checking if user has selected the image. If it's true, then we are creating the image reference, and after that we are uploading the image to Firebase storage, and then getting back the download URL so that we can store it in firestore. And here we are adding the new document to firestore. So we passed collection to add doc function, and then passed db the collection name, messages, unique identifier, and the sub collection to this collection function, and then finally we are providing the data we want to store there. Now we will work on getting conversation between currently logged in user and the selected user. and we will do that in our select user function. So first of all, I will need the ID of the selected user, and I will call it user2, and the ID will be user.uid, and then the ID for our unique identifier. Now we will create a messages ref, and it will be collection. Then we need to pass db, and then the collection name, which is messages. After that, the document, which is id, and finally the sub collection chat. And then we will create a query object. It will take messages ref, and I would like to retrieve the messages in ascending order by created at date, because we will show the latest message at the bottom and the previous messages on top. Just like we passed where filter here, we will also grab order by. And here order by field name, which is created at an ascending order. Finally, we will execute this query. So again, it will be an on snapshot real-time listener, because we would like to update the UI upon every new message. On snapshot, it will take query, and we will get query snapshot. Now let's create a messages array, and then query snapshot dot for each doc, and we will push this data into this array, messages dot push doc dot data. And we also read a state for messages. After this for each, we will set messages, and we will pass this array. So right now the array length is 0 because we have not selected any chat, and if I click on this, you can see the array length is now 3, and we can confirm it from our firestore messages collection, the unique identifier, sub collection chat, and here we have 3 conversations. So after this div, we will add another div, class name messages, and here we will loop through our messages state. So here I will first check messages array length, messages dot length, and then messages dot map. We will get a message. We will also get index, and now I will create a separate function for to display the message. So it will be called message, and the key is going to be the index, and we will pass the entire message. And here now we will import this message component. We will get message, and I will get a class name of message wrapper. Inside this div paragraph, and here we will display the media and the text as well. So if the message has media, then we will display as image. Source will be message.media and or message.text, otherwise null. And after that, message.text, and then a line break, and finally we will display our created at field. So it will be a small tag. So I would like to show the created at field as time ago, for example a few seconds ago, a few minutes ago. So for that, let's install two packages, npm install moment and react-moment. So I will import moment from React moment, and then moment from now, and here message dot created at, it's a timestamp, so we will convert it to date, not to date. And finally let's add some CSS. So the first one will be this messages, height overflow via auto, and border bottom. And then the message wrapper class, margin top and padding, and then the image width 100% and border radius 5 pixel. The p tag, padding, display inline block, maximum width 50%, text aligned to left and border radius 5 pixels, and then the small tag. Let's save it and take a look. So this is how it looks. Let's add a few dynamic classes. So here I will check message.from equals to currently logged in user1, and for that we need to pass user1 as well. So user1, and in home.js message, here we have access to user1. So if the message is from user1, then I will add a class own, otherwise null. and also in p tag message.from equals to user1. Then I will add a class me, otherwise friend. And now let's add these classes in our CSS. So here messages with class on, it will have text align to right. And for me class, background will be this color, what's that, blue color, and color will be white. And finally friend class background color will be gray. So this is how it looks like. This is the message by logged in user, and this is the message from the selected user. Now let's work on this scrolling so that it auto scrolls to bottom. We will import useref and use effect. First of all, we will create a reference, so it will be const scroll ref equals to useref, and it will be scroll ref dot current, and if it's available dot scroll into view, and it will take behavior, and it will be smooth. And we will pass message as dependency so that it automatically scrolls to bottom. And finally we will provide reference to this div, scroll ref. Now let's try. So if we add a few more messages, so if I click again on it, you can see it scrolls to bottom, and upon every new message it automatically scrolls to down bottom. Now we will work on displaying last message here. So for example, if this is the last message between their logged in user and Farhan, so I would like to show this last message here. And also if this last message is unread, so I would like to show him some sort of indicator to let him know that there is a new message. So first we will work on displaying last message. So we will create another collection to store last messages, and we will do that after sending a new message. And this last message between two specific users with this ID, it will always be in one message. It will always replace the older message. So here we will say wait. If you remember this add doc, it generates a new ID. If we take a look at here, this is the ID add doc method all generates. But we don't want to do that with the last message. So we will use setDoc method. So it will replace the existing message upon any new message. So we will bring it setDoc, and then in handle submit here await setDoc. It needs a reference, so we will also have to import doc. and we will pass doc, and here we will pass the collection name. Now first of all it will be db, then collection name, I will call it last message, and then the id, it will be the same, the combined id of two users. And we can use setDoc method on id. If you remember, we can't use the addDoc method on id, so we had to add a sub collection. But in case of setDoc, because we are setting as document, we will use this on id, on document. So after, we will provide data which we want to store there. So let's just copy all these fields, even though we probably don't need created at, and one more field which will be unread true, and we will set it to false once the selected user has read the message. Okay, so save it, and now in user.js file we will query the last message. Let's import use effect and use state. So here we need both user one, logged in user, and the selected user. So we have access to the selected user. Let's also pass current logged in user to this user component. So it's user one, and here we will also get user one, const user2 equals to user.uid, and let's add a question mark here if user is available, and also a state, const data set data equals to use state, it will be empty, and finally use effect. So it will be a real-time listener, so we need on snapshot, and it's a query on document, so we need doc and db as well. So on snapshot doc, and from our Firebase file we will import db. So here we will say let unsub equals to on snapshot, and we need to pass the document db, collection name, and finally the document. So we need id. Let's grab it from the home page. We have access to user 1 and user 2, and here we will get a document, and finally we will set data doc.data, and then we will unsubscribe to this real-time listener, return unsub. Okay, let me just first delete all the existing messages. And if I console log data here, Okay, if I send the message, so this is the last message. And if we take a look at our collection, we have two new collections, messages and last message. So right now the text shows hi Farhan. Let's try to send another message and see what happens. Okay, it's sent, and you can see it replaced the old document. The identifier is the same, but the document is changed. Let's add a dynamic class here as well, because I would like to change the background of selected user. So let's convert it into template literal. So here I will check, and we need chat also here. This chat, which is the selected user. So in user.js file, we will also provide chat, and here we will receive the chat. And now we will check chat.name if it's equals to user.name. If it's true, then we will add a class selected user. So the difference here is this chat is the selected user, and this user.name is this is what we get from the loop from here. So if we are looping over the same person as we clicked, then this class will be applied. Let's add CSS for this class. It's a gray color, so you can see now we know which user is selected. So again, this chat is the selected user, and this user is what we get from the loop we have ran over this user component. So if it's same, then we will add this class. And now we will show the last message here. So here we will check if this data exists. Then we will show a paragraph with class truncate, because we will not show the entire message, it might be very long. And then here data.text, which we will get from here. So as you can see, we have the last message here. And since it's a real-time listener, let's give it a try and see what happens. You can see it's immediately updated because of the on snapshot listener. One thing more, if the last message is from the logged in user, then I would like to show me here. Otherwise it will be the same. So here I will add a strong tag, and then data.from equals to user1, colon, otherwise null. What happened here? Oh, it will be inside the paragraph. Okay, so now let's add CSS for this truncate class. So if text is long, we will replace it with ellipsis and overflow will be hidden. Since the last message is from the logged in user, we can see me here. Now if I send message from Farhan to test, you can see now there is no me here, but it is here. Okay, so now let's utilize the field we have added in our last message, unread true. So if the message is unread, we will show some sort of indicator here. So here in user.js file, after this h4, we will check for data.from. If it not from in logged in user, which is user1, and it's still unread, by that I mean unread field is true, then small tag, and let's give it a class of name of unread, and here let's just say new. So here we are checking if from is not the data.from is not in logged in user. So here if last message is sent by me, so I will not show any indicator here. And the second condition is if it's still unread, then we will show this new. Let's add CSS for this. So margin left, background color, it's a blue color, color white, padding and border radius. So let's save it and see. You can see we have this new, and upon click I would like to set unread field to false, and it will only show when unread is true. And we will do that in select user function. When we click on the user, we will set this unread to false. And now we don't need on snapshot real-time listener, because it will run when we click. Every time we click on a user, this code will run. So let's bring a few things from firestore. In fact, we already have doc. We just need get doc, and this get doc, it run only once. So let's make this function asynchronous, and here await get doc. It takes document, and then db, the collection name, which in our case is last message, and finally the id document, which is this one, id, and let's store it in a variable document snap. Okay, so now we will check something here, and which is if this document is snap dot from not equals to the currently logged in user, means if we are not the one who clicked, By that I mean, for example, if I send message to selected user, so when I am sending the message, this unread is set. We are setting it unread to true. So here I only want to set it to false when the other person click on the last message, not me, because I am the one who sent the message. Why would I get the notification of new message? So if doc snap dot data dot from not equals to user1. If user1 is not the person who sent the message and who is clicking on this selected user, then we will update the document. So here await, and we need update document. Update doc, it will take document db collection name, then the document reference which is id, and finally the field we would like to update. So unread false. It's somewhat a confusing concept, so let's go through once again. When we send message, we are creating another collection last message, and we are setting the our message to that last message collection, and there is one additional field which is unread true. So here in select user function, when we click on the user, first of all we are retrieving the last message document from last message collection, and that document is based on the specific id. And then we are checking if the from property from field of that data is not equals to the logged in user. Means if logged in user has not sent that message, and the message is sent by someone else, the message is sent by other person, then we will update document. So if I am the one who sent the last message, then this unread should not be set to false. It should only be set to false when the other person read the message. So that's what we are checking here. And finally we are updating the document in last message and setting unread to false. Okay, so here we are getting an error, so let's add question mark here. And now when I click the message, the new indicator has gone away. So let's click Abbasi for now, and I'm logged in here as Farhan, and I will set message to test. So here is the last message from Farhan, and if we take a look at this last message collection, this is the last message, and unread is true. And now if I click on this user, unread is false. Okay, so I have added this long message here, and you can see it got truncated here with ellipses. Now let's make our app somewhat responsive. and here I will target the max width 767 pixels. So here I will change this grid template column. Now the left side will have 2 fractions and the right side 3 fractions. Also message form and message wrapper paragraph. So I'm setting the max width to 75 pixels, on screen 767 pixels. Earlier it was 50%. And one more query. So it will be 1 fraction and 5 fractions. And then the user wrapper class, display none. This class, this entire thing. So let's add a fragment. We will show something else. Div, and I will add on click. And then the image. At this it will be 576. So up to this screen size 576 pixels, I would like to show only image, and here I will add an additional class SM screen, and let's copy this class above. And I will replace this user wrapper with SM container. So this SM container, padding, text align center and cursor pointer, SM screen, display inline block, and changing the width of input field, and the paragraph tag max width is set to 100%, which was 75% in devices up to 767 pixels. So this small screen class, we will set it display none to other screen sizes. Okay, so on a small screen we are only seeing images, and if we click on that, we will see the messages. Okay, so here let's add bottom 5 pixels and message from btn, margin top 0. I have deleted the firestore collections and users and created 2 new users. So if I log in with the user test, And now if I click on this user, this is the error I got. No document to update, and it's from last message collection. And if we take a look at our home.js file in select user function, here, since there is no previous conversation between these two users, and when I click on user, I'm trying to get last message from this last message collection. So to fix this, we will check if data exists. So here doc.snap.data and double ampersand, and here we are checking if there is data in last message collection, then move forward. And now we don't need this question mark, because if data exists, then there will always be from field. Let's add comment so that we know what this code is doing, as I found it really complicated. Get last message between logged in user and selected user. And here we are checking if last message exists and message is not from, in fact, and message is from selected user. So if it's not from the logged in user, then it will be from selected user. So update last message doc set unread to false. So if I send message to this user in last message doc, unread will be true, and it will only be false when this user read the message. So save this file. And now if I click this user, I'm not getting that error. And let's go to firestore rules, and now we will update this security rule. So allow read write if request.auth not equals to null. So only authenticated user can read and write, and it's just a basic security validation. If you want to learn more about Firebase security rules, you can read from their docs. So now click publish. Now we will deploy our project. So first of all, I will create a repository. And I will call it React Firebase chat. Now copy this URL, and here let me remove this console log. So git add all, git commit -m, git push origin master. I have already made lesson wise commits of the cameras. As you can see, there are many commits. So now head over to versal.com. Click on new project, and you need to integrate your GitHub repository here. So this is the one I just created. click on import. Now skip this create a team. And in build and output setting, we will override this build command. ci equals to false and then npm run build. And we are doing this because here you can see we have some messages regarding missing dependencies, and maybe we have some unused imports as well. So the build process will crash. So that's why we have to mention ci equals to false before npm run build. And now we will have to enter all the environment variables we have. React app API key and then the value. So now I will add all these environment variables, and once it's done we will then deploy. Okay, so I have added all the environment variables. Now click on deploy. Okay, so it's deployed now. Now let's click on this link. Now let's send message. Okay, so it's working. Alright, so now let's update profile photo. So these are some of the images I got from unsplash.com. So let's pick this one. Alright, so it's updated. Now let's remove this console log as well. And you can see the build process already triggered. So it's done. Alright, so everything is working as expected.